What is up, kinfolk? How y'all doing? Hope y'all are doing well. So this is kind of like an old video that I'm reviewing, but my brother asked me to watch it because he got triggered a little bit. The video is the Andrew Tate Piers Morgan. So it's kind of funny because I saw the Jordan Peterson one and I thought it was pretty good. I didn't have any complaints with Piers for the most part. Like, it was a really solid interview. But from what I hear coming off of this one, I hear he's a little bit more in his feelings. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna just review it. I don't know much about Andrew Tate. I will say that. I have seen some clips. Some of them I agree with. Some of the things he says I don't agree with. So I am going into this thing being open-minded. So without further ado, let's get into it.
So I thought that was interesting because when I've gone over everything that's been at the centre of the debate about Andrew Tate, I come down with Joe Rogan in the sense that there's a lot of stuff you say I agree with. You know, I've got 3 sons in their 20s. It's not easy actually being a young male in the modern world. And I think a lot of the things that you say about that can resonate with them. Yeah. The problem comes with the, I don't know, 10, 20% or whatever of your output, which on the face of it appears to be blatant misogyny. And when you couple that with your massive influence and huge reach, that is why the social media companies have decided to effectively cancel you. I don't believe in cancel.
Okay, so I'm a person who likes to deal with the actual definitions of things. We could also go into the fact that definitions have changed over time, but, you know, misogyny is a word that is thrown around a lot, and I think context is very important. So, what does misogyny mean? A misogynist or misogyny is a person who hates women, compared to a misandrist, which I assume is a person who hates men. We have a lot of misandrists out there, I ain't gonna hold you. But misogyny, a person who hates women. Okay, so what is he saying? I hope we get into it. What exactly has he said that shows that he hates women and has a disdain for them?
I don't believe in censorship particularly. That's why I've invited you to come on the show. But I do think a lot of the things you've said are blatant misogyny. Do you accept that?
So you made a very interesting point there. You just said on the face of it appear to be blatantly misogynistic. I understand that on the face of some of the long format content I've made, if you're going to take a few seconds out of hours, chop it up, put it all over social media, accompanied with my massive fame, then things can absolutely not be taken out of context. I do not hate women in any regard. I have no negative relationship with women. No women have come forward saying I've hurt them. I have no criminal record for hurting women. There's no way I can be seen as the face or the devil in regards to how men treat women on the planet. I'm absolutely and utterly the opposite. I believe in protecting and providing. I've been misunderstood. There's been large contingents of people who have tried very hard to purport lies about me. And the truth of the matter is, I've been producing content for a very long time. Hours and hours of videos been cut down to 2 or 3 seconds of clip. Those clips have gone viral and people misunderstand me.
But I think you've used this phrase of be taken out of context. And I'm not sure that is correct in the sense that it still comes out of your mouth. And some of the things you've said, I just think are blatantly.
Well, let's do them. Let's hear them.
Let's go through some.
Sure.
Right? So you said this about Me Too stroke rape. This is probably 40% of the reason I moved to Romania. In Eastern Europe, none of this garbage flies. You go to the police and say, he raped me back in 1988. They'll say, well, you should have done something about it back then.
Yeah, so the point I was making was obviously at the height of the Me Too scandal, and also if we look at Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, there's been a lot of high-profile cases where men have been accused of things they did not do without evidence, and their lives have been completely and utterly destroyed. Right. When I say these things, people sit and say that, oh, he hates women. I don't hate women. I think rape is disgusting. I would take a stronger stance on rape than the British government. I think these people should face the death penalty. But to sit and say that women without evidence can go forward and just make up accusations against men, even though they've been repeatedly proven to destroy men's lives at will, is absolutely and utterly
What about a woman who was...
I agree. So the issue is, because the whole statement of believe all women, and we had the Amber Heard situation, I'm glad he brung it up, is we have situations where women have recanted their statements, whether for whatever reason, right? And unfortunately, whether these men actually get criminally charged or not with the case, their reputations are absolutely ruined. There's nothing worse than, you know, the jury of public opinion. You have a lot of women who have incriminated a lot of high status people. In some ways, I think it is for money. But, you know, we can't just assume. We live in a society, well, we are allegedly live in a world where people are innocent till proven guilty. But in the discourse of the public, you're always guilty till proven innocent. So even if everything comes forward and, you know, finds out that this person was actually lying, it doesn't matter. The information is out there that it already looks like you did it, because the whole point is to believe all women. I don't believe you should believe anybody. I think you should let the case speak for itself. That's just me personally.
Was raped back in 1988 and goes to the police.
Then the man should face absolute and complete justice.
Fair.
But you understand that when that clip appears on TikTok as a clip, and all right,
as a clip, completely.
Okay, but it's still something that came out of your mouth. Do you accept that when that appears on TikTok, a lot of young, maybe not as smart as you, young men, right? Impressionable, teenagers, will read that and go, what's he saying here? Is he saying that rape doesn't exist?
No, I completely. I'm not going to sit here as a professional and say that I can't be taken out of context. What I will say is that one small sentence you've taken was from a 1-hour video where I explained that, of course, rape is disgusting. Of course, everybody should be punished for their crimes regardless of when they happen. But people are not perfect, male and female. And if you give women the opportunity to destroy men's lives without evidence, there's going to be a contingent of women who will do that. I'm trying to make a balanced and nuanced argument in a world where people have no attention span. They're going to take a few seconds, put it online, decide someone's good or bad, not be interested in the longer format video. And here I am. No, I'm certainly a person who takes personal responsibility. That's who I am as a person. But we live in a world now with TikTok videos 5 or 6 seconds long. There's no content.
Do you think women are the property of men?
No. The point I was making.
Why have you said they are?
Because I made a religious point. I said that when a man marries a woman, the woman's father walks her down the aisle, and hands her away to the man. Traditionally, this is what it says in the Bible. I'm a religious person. I believe in God. I live in the most religious country in the world.
So you do think that the woman becomes the men?
I think she takes his last name.
I mean, let's watch the clip that you said about this so that we can get it in context.
So I think my sister is her husband's property, yes. When a bride is walking down the aisle to marry the groom, the father walks next to her and gives her away. True or false?
Absolutely.
But I've been married twice, as it turns out, and on both occasions, I didn't believe that the woman was being handed to me as chattel, as property.
Perhaps the way the reason I'm asked that question repeatedly, and I'm asked in a loaded way.
So would you rephrase what you said there?
Now, that's an interesting point about phrasing. The way I would say things before I was famous, I have to take personal responsibility and accept that if I make a video that 500 people see and 1% of them misunderstand it, that's not a problem. If I make a video that 5 million people see and 1% of them understand.
So specifically on that point, I think my sister is her husband's property.
She took his last name.
He has a point. I'm not necessarily agreeing with the property thing. Hold on. But he has a point. When it comes to stuff going viral, because I've actually had the opportunity to have a couple of clips go viral and that I've done. And one of the things is, it's funny because I'll put up clips that I think are absolutely hilarious. I had a lot of enjoyment editing it, and they get no traction. And then there are videos that I'm like, you know, these are decent videos, but whatever. And then they get a ton of traction. I don't think anybody in their right mind would have thought that Andrew Tate, if you put money on this, I know you lying, but I don't think there's anybody in their right mind who would say Andrew Tate will be the most Googled man in the world. So coming from a previous platform, it's similar with a whole bunch of actors and actresses too, and just people in entertainment. When they say stuff back in the day, they said it under the pretense that they weren't necessarily famous, and even if they weren't like that high profile. So now people will go back and look at the receipts and they'll be like, oh, look at what this person said. It's like, well, if I knew I was going to be as big as I am now, if I knew I was going to be this big now, I probably would have been more careful with my words back then. So I will agree, phrasing and optics. How he phrases it now, I'm not necessarily opposed to. I think it's I think now he's trying to like clean it up. How he's saying it now, I'm not necessarily opposed to. Saying straight up, I think women are property. I think that's definitely where there's a disconnect, for sure. But if you just say, hey, you know, in religious traditions, traditionally, the woman is handed off from her father to her husband, and she takes his last name. I don't think a lot of people will find an issue with that. You always have those people, well, why does he have to take his last name? Why can't she take hers? I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about, but from that perspective, it makes sense. But when you just say, oh, she's property, people are gonna feel a certain type of way. So, optics.
She married him. She wanted to join his family. She has said it herself.
Right. So she's
still a sovereign individual. She's absolutely not a sovereign individual.
Property means that the husband owns your sister.
Listen, my friend, if we want to argue about this, you need to go back to the Bible, to the Quran. You need to argue with religious
No,
leaders
I'm not
around the world.
talking about anything in the Bible or Quran.
But that's what it says.
No, I'm asking you what you think.
I think that if a woman marries a man and she decides to take his last name, that they have different roles and responsibilities within that marriage, and I believe that.
That's not the question.
I believe the father.
Don't behave like a politician.
The father hands her to the man.
Right, but don't be a politician, because I think you're a straight talker, right? You keep telling me you're a straight talker. I think my sister is her husband's property. Do you regret saying it like that?
I understand that with my newfound fame, perhaps it could be phrased differently. However, I still believe that a woman is given to the man in marriage. That's what I believe.
But not as property.
Fair enough.
No, the property is the word that other people use when they ask me the question.
But as an equal partner in a loving union, that's what marriage actually means. It doesn't mean that when you get married, the woman is given to you as a bit of chattel.
Agreed.
Okay, now we're arguing semantics. I feel like, no. Like, I get what he's trying to say. It makes sense to me. I feel like we're arguing semantics right now. Like, do you actually believe, like, he explained himself. Like, you know, phrasing was bad. He's not going to walk it back. At least like he said, he's taking responsibility for what he said. He's like, I'm not going to change that I think that way per se, but I'm definitely going to change how I say it. I don't like that she is handed over to her husband. That makes sense to me personally. Like, I'm kind of a traditionalist. Actually, I am a traditionalist, so that mindset makes sense. But to say that I am owned by my husband, I'm gonna be honest. Maybe I'm a little bit triggered and in my feelings. I would be honest. I don't necessarily agree with that. But how he said it now, I feel like that's totally fine. I feel like Piers right now is just digging. He's really, really digging for something to make sure that this guy is actually like saying crazy stuff. But whatever.
So why say it?
But that's the way that people ask me the question. People say to me, they ask the
question.
question.
You can't blame people for asking you questions. Surely, if you want to be accountable for what you've said, you've got to own your responses, not blame the question.
I own the response.
Like me asking you a question now and you say something and then say, well, actually, I blame you for asking.
I understand, Piers. Piers, I understand. I believe the woman is given to the man. I believe she's given away by the father. I believe she belongs to the man.
So fundamentally, you do believe that a woman becomes a man's property at marriage.
I believe she belongs to the man in marriage, correct.
Right. Oh, you see, that to me is misogyny.
What? Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. What? How is that misogyny? How is that? Okay, by definition, misogyny is when a man hates women. How is that misogyny? You're getting freaking married. How is that misogyny? I don't get... Okay. I'm trying not to get triggered. Okay.
Misogyny.
I understand why some people can be very offended by what I say. What they do is they take a point like that and they ignore all the other points I make the other way around.
Yeah, but that's why I've repeatedly asked you about that line to see if you've changed your position. But the reality is you haven't.
It's not about changing positions. I'm a full-grown adult and I stick by the things I say and I'm responsible for them.
Which, by the way, is fine.
Absolutely.
But what you did say at the start of this little exchange, you said, you know, I wouldn't maybe say things the same way now that I did before I was famous. And yet, actually, you've doubled down and said exactly the same thing.
On certain points.
So that is what you believe. And that's my point.
Yes.
I'm trying to work out, look, I don't know you. We've just met, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out who Andrew Tate is and what you actually believe. I don't want to twist anything at all.
Then let me make it very, very clear to the camera. I believe a woman is given to the man in marriage. I believe that. I also believe a man has a duty to protect and provide for her. I believe a man should lay down his life if something happens or his wife's life is threatened. I believe that women and children first are on the lifeboats.
But men,
I believe that men...
But Amanda...
So, once again, leave a comment down below. Help me understand. Maybe I'm missing something. How is that misogyny? Help me. Like, seriously, help me, because I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know what else to say, but I just don't get it. How is that misogyny that you believe that men should protect their women? Like, and even when it comes down to property, like, I'll say that my boyfriend is my boyfriend. I'm his girlfriend. That's technically, if we're gonna use hyperpolarizing words, that's technically like he belongs to me, I belong to him. We're exclusive. How is that problematic, and how is that misandry or misogyny? That doesn't make any sense. If you're in a traditional marriage, you belong to your husband belongs to you. That's why if you step out and cheat, it's a problem. How is that okay. Cause I'm gonna say straight up, that's my husband right there. So he's by definition, is he my property now? Like, that's my husband, I'm his wife? Like, that is maybe I'm stupid. Help me in the comments section. Help me understand this, because this is not computing to me whatsoever. I think we're arguing a semantic argument, and he's just really hung up on the aspect of property as a word that's been used. But based on the definition and how he explained himself now, I'm more comfortable with that than just saying straight out property. But even when I think about the aspect of property, when I'm, like I said, I'm dating right now, so I'm like, this is my man. This is my man. What are you talking about? Like, what?
Doesn't own a woman.
It's not, no, it's okay.
Unless they literally buy them as a slave.
Well, obviously, we're not talking about that. We're talking about religious, biblical marriage. We're talking about something else.
What?
Yeah, but I'm a Christian. I don't believe that I own my wife.
Do you believe your wife was given away to you when she took your last name?
I believe that there is a process where a father traditionally walks his daughter
arguing
down the aisle
semantics.
and hands his daughter to this man, and they stand there and become a union of two loving people in a partnership. No, there's no ownership involved.
I didn't say
he's not selling her. The father of the bride isn't selling his daughter.
No, absolutely.
That's what property means.
She becomes a member of your family.
Is it?
I think we're arguing over semantics.
We're not, though, because fundamentally, I don't believe a man owns a woman. You do.
Well, I don't think a man owns any sovereign individual. I don't think we live in the world of slavery. I don't own any men or any woman.
Right.
Nobody owns
When
anybody.
you use phrases like property, that's what you imply.
I understand.
And so my point again is, you're a smart guy, right?
Correct,
There's no denying that. You're smart, you're a good talker. I've seen a lot of the stuff. But what I don't think you quite fully understand.
No, I understand very well,
when
Piers.
young, impressionable people
I understand
who are
that very
not
well.
as smart see things like, I think my sister is her husband's property, yes, and you've just reaffirmed that belief. They think that they have the right to own women.
I think you can't structure your argument based on a small percentage of people. Does that make sense? Like, if the majority of people are stupid, sorry if that triggers you, but let's say the majority of people are stupid, you're going to try to create your argument to try to cater to that audience, right? If the majority of people, actually, no. A minute minority of people are not going to get this. They're not. But you don't create, first off, how you speak for this minority, especially considering Andrew Tate, like he said, he's like, I'm creating this whole hour-long podcast for a minority, as well as just to let that hour-long clip be cut down to 10 seconds and hand-fed to people who are, once again, the minority. The majority of people who I think have a problem with Andrew Tate don't watch his stuff, aren't even gonna like sit down and actually watch the full entire podcast. So yeah, I think this is just a semantic argument and whatnot.